Thanos, the Thumbhead Rising, greatly succeeded in demoralizing the thousands of gamers who attempted to beat the game. And because the op apparently wants to continue the trend of crushing the ambition of those who play cooperative games, they've launched an entire line of Rising games. The first follow-up features He Who Knows No Knows. Seriously, where does Nose go? Voldemort and his band of Death Eaters are now rising to the occasion, trying to, I don't know, take over the world or whatever it is that wizards do. Players will step into the roles of popular characters from the wizarding world and attempt to stop Voldy and the Death Eaters before it's too late. Hey, Voldy and the Death Eaters is a pretty awesome band name, you gotta admit. Let's step through platform 9 3/4 for a quick look at how to play. Harry Potter Death Eaters Rising is for 2 to 4 wizards and takes about 60 minutes, give or take, depending on how you roll your dice. The goal in the game for the players is to defeat old Voldy here, and you're going to do that by working through this deck. This deck has characters and Death Eaters in it. Voldemort's card, right here, is in the middle of the deck whenever you start the game. And so, in order to get through the deck, you're going to have to defeat Death Eaters that are here around the circle. You also want to recruit wizards around the circle here to join each of your teams. And as you do that, this deck will get smaller and Voldemort will come out, and then you have the chance to defeat him. But you can only defeat him, you can only damage him as many as Death Eaters you've defeated up to that point. So if you only defeated 2 Death Eaters, you can only damage him twice. Now the standard game, you want to do 5 Death Eaters so that you can damage him 5 times. Of course, to make it more challenging, you can increase that or decrease it to make it less challenging. Players will select an affiliation at the beginning of the game. You can either play as Dumbledore's Army, Hogwarts, or the Phoenix. And there are 2 of each, so 2 players can play as the same one if they would like to. You also get a starting character, and of course it's dependent on which house you choose or which affiliation you choose. Like if you choose Dumbledore's Army, one of your options for starting is Harry Potter. On your turn, you're going to do a few things. First of all is you're going to choose where you're going to move, which location you're going to go to. Now, there are 3 locations, and each one has characters assigned to it. So this location here, this is Department of Mysteries, has these 3 characters assigned to it here. They are at this location. Same thing goes for Gringotts Bank. You've got these 3 characters over there. And finally, Hogsmeade train platform has these 3 characters here. And each location has 2 locations, and the idea is if you ever get through the 2, and then what's going to happen during the game is these locations are going to get corrupted by Voldemort, and as you work through it, you'll get these corruption tokens on there. Once a location is corrupted, it goes away over here, and if this one gets corrupted, it'll go here. And then finally, if a location gets corrupted the 3rd time, you lose the game. That's one of the ways to lose. I'll tell you about some other ways here in a minute. But I'm getting ahead of myself. On your turn, you choose a location to go to by putting your token there. Actually, let's come over here. No, let's go over here. We've got old Wormtail over there we can defeat. Once you've decided where to go, you're going to roll the Voldemort dice. This big, heavy, large, 8-sided green dice. And it will tell you what Voldemort does here. He's either going to rotate right or left, or he's going to stay and activate Death Eaters. Now, whenever he stays or wherever he moves, he's going to deal damage to all the wizards there, not Death Eaters, but wizards, and he'll also put a corruption token on the location. And then if there's a Death Eater there that has an ability that activates when Voldemort is present, that will activate. And then if you do roll that Death Eater symbol, he doesn't turn. He stays there, and then there are other Death Eaters who have abilities that activate when that is rolled. So every single turn, bad things happen with this guy. He's just angry at everybody because he has no nose. Once you resolve the green dice, you'll collect the dice for you, your team, your individual team. So each of the affiliations have a specialty. They're strong in one particular area. Dumbledore's Army has wands, Hogwarts has hats, and Order of the Phoenix. And you can tell because there are 2 red, 2 blue, and 2 purple, and then it's filled out with 2 other colors. So you're going to want to go to locations that will be easier to get. So, for example, you need hats for Filch over here. So you wouldn't really want to go over there with Dumbledore's Army. You want someone from Hogwarts to go over there because they're more likely to get hats when they roll. Since we're over here, let's redo this. Let's have Phoenix come over here. And we've got Peter Pettigrew, and he needs 2 birds and 1 sword to be wounded. So what that means is you're going to take your dice, you roll them, boom. Okay, and so I'm going to assign my dice. So since I need 2 phoenixes, I'm going to assign this one that has 2 phoenixes on it. Then he's going to need a sword. Well, I don't have a sword, so now I'm going to re-roll. Oh, there's my sword. Put my sword on there. Now I've wounded him. Boom! If I had not rolled the sword, I would have to discard 1 and re-roll until I try to get it, or I run out of dice. The same process applies when you're going to recruit wizards. They each have a symbol on there that they need. Whenever you roll what they need on their card, you can have them come join your team. And then once you've finished assigning dice, then you will resolve them. So again, if you've dealt damage, you will then put that cube down. You don't put it down immediately. You wait till your turn's over. So you put the cube down. If you were able to recruit somebody, they would come join your team. And if a wizard had all of their damage cube spots filled, they are dead or knocked out or whatever. And that happens when Dumbledore attacks the location that they're at. Each person there will get a cube, as I mentioned. If you've dealt damage to a Death Eater, every time you do that, you get a potion token, which are special things like this one lets you add a die. And those can be spent on any turn. Even you can give it to your player, your friend, and they can use that. Some will let you heal, some will give you an automatic symbol. Those are all super helpful, so you really want to go after those. Now, the game will end after a number of conditions. One I already mentioned is if one location gets corrupted 3 times. The other is if 4 locations total get corrupted. Then if one wizard, all of their playable wizards on their team have been defeated, you would lose. And then finally, if a certain number of wizards total have been defeated, and that's dependent on how many players are playing. So like for a 2-player game, if 8 wizards are defeated, then you lose the game. But if you can stick it out until Voldemort's card comes out and you've defeated enough Death Eaters and you put enough damage on Voldemort, you defeat him and you win. Let's get started with the quality of the game. It's great. I don't know, you wouldn't expect anything less from the op, but from the statue, the detailed, colored statue, to the chunky dice, the cards, the boards, they're all very high quality. The only thing is that 8-sided die is so heavy. It's good quality, but it's so heavy, it's kind of hard to roll and bounce. So it's hard to get that going and really randomize things. But does it really matter because all of the things are bad anyway? The game features a pretty standard dice rolling mechanism where you roll and then you choose to play some and then re-roll what you have left, or you can discard one and then re-roll whatever you have left. It's that pretty press your luck kind of thing where if I put one here, I'm taking a chance that maybe, hopefully, when I re-roll, I'll get what I need. Or you can just go ahead and cut your losses and discard one to try to get what you need for another card. I like that the various affiliations you play as have different focuses. Their starting dice are different. And they aren't just the same for everybody. So that adds some variety instead of everybody just having the same dice from the very beginning. Now, if you can play the game right and luck is in your favor, you'll have opportunities to get extra dice. And I know at one point I was rolling like 8, which is pretty awesome. But sometimes that doesn't happen and you're stuck with the 4. You're not going to do very well if you can't use the wizards and the other abilities like the potions to get those extra dice. You're not going to get very far if you only have 4 dice every time you roll. You really need to add those extras. Death Eaters Rising has a good cooperation factor to it. It's not just everybody's just rolling dice to see what happens. You've got to coordinate who's going to which location, who's better suited for that. You've got to pay attention to who has the right kind of dice that are best suited for each location. You're trading wizards. You're using your tokens to help each other. There's a lot of cooperation going on, and I really enjoy that. As you play, you really need to make progress cycling the cards out from the table, whether that's by defeating Death Eaters or recruiting wizards or the other characters. If you don't, it feels long, since you have to wait to be able to get Voldemort out on the table from the middle of the deck. Until you do that, you can't even win. So you really need to pace yourself in getting those cards out on the table, otherwise the game is going to take a long time. I think having to defeat a certain number of Death Eaters before attacking Voldemort is a nice challenge. It's not just as soon as he shows up, you can just go start wailing on him. There's some prerequisites there, and I appreciate that. Now, because there's so much working against you, you could easily think the game isn't winnable, and in fact, at first I was convinced that it was impossible, but as my wife likes to point out frequently, I was wrong. It can be beat. You just have to make the right choices of where and when to place your dice, and remember to make good use of any spell tokens you get and the character's abilities. Any fans of Harry Potter should enjoy the game. There's lots to talk about as you play. Hey, there's Neville, he's going to be able to help me. Oh, there's Filch, I don't really care if we lose him, he's a jerk. So those kinds of things are going to be going on every time a character pops up, or remember when this happened in the movie, that kind of thing. You're going to have fun with that. Now, as I mentioned previously, each of the affiliations have different starting dice, and they're thematic to who is on the team. So, for example, the Order of the Phoenix specializes in phoenixes, Hogwarts specializes in sorting hats, and Dumbledore's army has more wand symbols on their dice. Each character has an ability that makes sense. For example, if you place the right dice on Fawkes the Phoenix, you can heal wizards. And, of course, the fact that Voldemort hates you and is always attacking and corrupting locations makes the game all the more thematic. My feelings are all over the place when playing Death Eaters Rising, and it's all dependent on how the dice rolling goes. It's easy to get frustrated when you just can't get the rolls you need, especially when you just need one more hat symbol. And when those bad effects from the Death Eaters are executed, you can't help but feel a sense of rage! Well, only if you're taking the game too seriously. Well, here comes a big but. As with other games that rely on dice, you also have those stand up and cheer moments. When just the right combination of dice are rolled at the final stand, you can't help but feel you actually just saved the world. So I will say that the celebrations and feelings of joy that come from defeating Voldy and his Death Eaters far outweigh any frustrations that come along. Obviously, the game is best enjoyed by Harry Potter fans. If you want to pull your Muggle friends in for a game, they could probably enjoy it too, but won't have the same appreciation as you would. Characters from all the movies or books are in the game, so I guess there's a slight spoiler warning there, but only if you're unreasonable. And clearly, since the game is so reliant on dice, people who don't like to leave their wins up to luck need not play. Seriously, this is a dice game. If you have a problem with dice, stay away. And so, having said all of that, my final judgment of Harry Potter Death Eaters Rising is approved! It's a fun romp with friends through the deadly wizarding world of Harry Potter. If you enjoyed this review and want to see more of me and sometimes my totally normal family... Jane, you want to say bye? No! Okay, bye! Check out my YouTube channel, The Lighten Up Initiative, where you can see unboxing and playthrough videos featuring me and my kiddos. Until next time, remember, don't take the board game hobby too seriously, like ripping up Bellatrix Lestrange when she inevitably causes your team to lose. Just lighten up.